Hello and welcome to Pocket Potential. Our aim here is to help you to maximize your potential by taking small steps in the right direction. Now let's jump into the show. All right, welcome back. I'm your host, Paul Croswell, and I am so glad you're here today. We're going to be talking about what we find at the intersection of spiritual growth and personal development. And this is a topic I'm really excited to dive into, but before we do, I want to let you know that I've recently released my latest mental health guide. I'll include a link to the download of this guide in the description of this episode, so be sure to look for that. I made this mental health guide because a lot of people I come across are held back by what I'm going to call minor mental health obstacles. Now, these issues aren't severe as far as the grand scope of mental health goes, but they're significant enough to still impact your day-to-day life, impacting things like your focus, your productivity, and your ability really to function overall at your highest capacity. In terms of your emotional wellness and productivity. And I know for a fact no one wants that. I certainly don't want to live that way. And so what I did was compile a list of the 5 best ways to boost your mental health quickly. Everything from the easiest exercise to engage in order to do that, and even some of the best foods to just kind of snack on throughout the day that would allow this really significant change to happen almost subtly, really kind of without thought. So if you or someone you know could use something like this, then be sure to follow the link in the download. It is completely free, so make the best of that, enjoy it, and please let me know what you think. All right, now let's jump into today's episode. We're going to talk about, like I said before, what we find at the intersection of spiritual growth and personal development. Now, for a long time, I have worked in the Christian professional world in really various capacities. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that as a Christian professional, you're often at the crossroads of needing to develop yourself personally or professionally without having to undermine or compromise your spiritual growth. I have friends who are believers in various fields. I mean, whether they're police officers or in the medical field or just, working at your local grocery store, they're still needing to navigate these two things. And there's often this crossroads of I kind of need to grow as a professional in order to advance in my job, in order to really do my job better over time. But at the same time, I don't want to take away from what's called of me in terms of my spiritual growth. So what does that look like? And we often separate the two and even feel judged if we try to do both. But what if your growth as a believer and as a professional had a crossover, right? What if they weren't completely separated? And while these are not interchangeable, spiritual being vital and professional being important, very different things, there's still plenty to find at the intersection of these two practices, right? There's still a lot at the crossroads between the two of them. And what I'm about to share is not an exhaustive list, but it's what I've found so far, at least some of the most significant things that I've found that might be able to help you to find ways to navigate these two things in a healthy way, to take a small step in the right direction, right? So the first thing that I found is routine. Routine sits at the crossroads of spiritual growth and personal development. Routine is a regular part of growth, whether it's spiritual or professional. In scripture, we see that Jesus has a routine. Well, really, he has a set of routines, but one of the most prominent ones was that he would get up early in the morning to have alone time with the Father. That was a regular, consistent routine of Jesus. And in the same way, with personal development or spiritual growth, a routine helps you develop the disciplines that you need to grow, right? The disciplines that will lead to growth. So that's number one. Number two is structure. Structure is the second thing that I found sitting at the crossroads of spiritual growth and personal development. Just as with personal development, spiritual discipline reflects a sense of structure or priority, to put it a different way. Uh, there are primary disciplines, right? And when it comes to spiritual growth, such as study of scripture, prayer, and worship, these are primary disciplines. And then there are secondary disciplines, such as celebration and simplicity. If you read Richard Foster's Celebration of Disciplines, you'll really kind of learn the hierarchy of these things. And that's a great book, by the way, if you're interested in spiritual growth. But these are, you have the primary disciplines and then you have the secondary disciplines. And what this reflects is a sense of priority or a sense of structure that lets you know what the foundation is, what are the key things that need to sit at the very bottom to be built on, and the other things that are important but certainly not vital for growth. Number three, the third thing that sits at the crossroads is balance. Now, while this may not be overt, it's certainly very, very clear that Jesus maintained a sense of balance or connectedness between all of life. In his relationship with the Father, we find that was foundational. His relationship with the Father was absolutely foundational. But throughout his ministry, you see that Jesus addresses things such as finances, friendship, family relationships, and even career, right? So there is this sense of balance, this sense of all things are equally important as far as the need to be intentional with it. And personal development stresses a sense of balance for achieving lasting success as you grow. You certainly can achieve success without balance. I think a lot of people have demonstrated that, but it's nearly impossible to achieve lasting success that's going to stay with you over a long period of time, that's not going to lead to you crashing and burning eventually. It's nearly impossible to achieve that without a sense of balance in life, without intentionality across all of life. And with that, I want to take a quick break to thank you again for listening to The Pocket Potential and for your amazing support. If you're new to the show and would like to help to make the show even better than it already is, there are a few things that you can do. The first is share this episode with a friend, family, or coworker that you think would love it. And second, you can leave a positive review on whatever platform you're listening on. Doing either or both of these things are amazingly helpful to us in growing the show, making it better, right? So thanks again for listening and for your support of The Pocket Potential. All right, discipline number 4, or what sits at number 4 at the crossroads of these two things, spiritual growth and personal development, I found restoration. Now, this one actually may surprise some folks, but I think it's actually pretty clear that restoration sits at the crossroads of spiritual growth and personal development, because restoration that comes from spiritual growth tends to be pretty clear, right? There's no questioning or wondering what the restoration looks like when it comes to growing spiritually and becoming more grounded in your spiritual life. But when it comes to personal development, it really is surprising to some folks after a while, like, oh man, there's healing happening here. There's restoration happening here on a level that I didn't anticipate. The reality is that as you grow in developing healthy routines and priorities or structures, as well as regain a sense of balance in life, the natural result is a restoration of health, right? Health in your body, in your mind, in your relationships, and even in your finances. There's nothing hidden or secret about the fact that God cares about all aspects of our lives. And, the more you begin to develop healthy routines in your eating, in your exercising, in your intellectual development, the more you begin to find restoration in your body, in your mind, and so on. So that's number 4. Number 5 is peace. Peace sits at the crossroads of spiritual growth and personal development. As you grow spiritually and in your personal development journey, you'll find a sense of peace naturally comes with it. Now, there are different kinds of peace, right? The peace that you get from personal development and the peace that you get from spiritual growth are very different peace, or kinds of peace. But it's still peace nonetheless. Spiritual peace is, I think the best way to explain it, it's almost untouchable, right? Spiritual peace is an irrevocable one. It's untouchable by your circumstances and, just by life in general. While peace that comes from personal development is a sense of clarity and health that, you experience internally and circumstantially, from having to worry less, right? If you're healthier in your body, and you're healthier in your mind, and you're healthier in your relationships, you begin to naturally worry less about what's happening in your body, what's happening in your relationships, what's happening in your mind, your health over the long term in any of these areas. And it's just this natural kind of unfolding that happens of peace whenever you grow in this area. But nonetheless, you find peace sitting at the crossroads of these two journeys. And finally, growth. Now, this may go without saying, but growth sits at the crossroads of spiritual growth and personal development. Consistent application of either spiritual disciplines or personal development principles will result in growth. You will grow as a person in your understanding of self, in your understanding of God. You will also grow as a leader, as a husband or a wife, as a mother or father, as a boss, etc. But growth is the natural result of intentional living in either one of these areas. So these are the 6 things that I found sitting at the intersection of spiritual growth and personal development. Number 1 is routine. Number 2 is structure. Number 3 is balance. Number 4 is restoration. Number 5 is peace. And number 6 is growth. And for today's question, how do you balance the need to develop yourself personally or professionally without undermining your spiritual growth in the process? Do you find that you need to be extra intentional in this area? Has it really just kind of come naturally to you? Is it really not been a thought? What do you do? What's your secret sauce, your routine, your setup that has helped you to grow as a professional as well as in your spiritual journey without feeling like you need to kind of pull hair between the two? Send me an email or leave me a voicemail or voice message. There's a link in the description of each of these episodes that allows you to send a voice message in, and that comes directly to me, right? Or if you prefer, you can also send an email, which I'm more than welcome. But I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. And guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to The Pocket Potential. My goal, as always, is to help you to take a small step in the right direction. If you like and support this podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave a positive review on whatever platform you listen or watch on. It's so very helpful to us whenever you do that. You can also check out the blog post version of this episode on my website, paulwcroswell.com/blog. That's paulwcroswell.com/blog. All right. Thank you so much. Remember to check out the mental health guide as mentioned at the beginning of this episode. The link will be in the description of this episode. And always, always, always remember that a small step in the right direction is a big deal. Until next time.